And I think I'm sitting here thinking, how would a 7-year-old process and think, okay, I have a brother and sister over there that
Yeah, because they don't really understand biology.
yeah, right.
Typically, the
How would they
10-year-old
process into that?
might. The 10-year-old
Maybe,
might.
yes.
Oh, yeah, that's tough. But let's just take this a step at a time. If they're excited and they seem excited and they want to know more, and this is part of my family, it would also be hard to say, well, yeah, I don't know. I don't know how that, again, this is new territory for me, and I'm shocked to be saying that because I
Well,
thought I thought I knew everything. Rick. And I'm realizing I don't.
there's a reason to live, Diane.
I'm saying that tongue in cheek. I hope everybody realizes that because it sounded like I was saying that and I didn't want to say that. But I mean, this is a situation with nuances that I haven't really ever had to unpack before. So I guess that's why I wanted to do this one because it's like, there's some interesting things here. Hey, this is Diane Dirks.
And I'm Rick Voiles.
We've been working with co-parents in conflict for more than 2 decades. We've taught classes, written books, counseled parents, empathized, and agonized a few times to help people make sense of their complicated families.
We were talking one day, and it occurred to us that helping the most difficult cases comes down to one simple concept. Is one parent willing to let go of the tug-of-war rope, or is it worth it to hold on and fight?
So we invite you to take this journey with us each episode as we tackle the questions, should you hold on or let it go?
Welcome to Co-Parent Dilemmas, where we give you practical solutions to those impossible co-parents. Hi, Diane.
Hi, Rick.
How's it going?
How are you?
I'm good.
I'm good too. We're getting closer to the holidays.
Yes. Yeah. I'm really not being affected too much by the coming of the holidays. I don't know. It just hasn't struck me yet.
I did turn on the radio today and I heard Christmas music and I thought it was a little soon. I kind of really want to wait till Thanksgiving is over before I hear Christmas music because I love Christmas music, but I get sick of it after a couple of weeks. And I don't want to be on Christmas Day going, all right, already. I've had enough Christmas music.
Yep.
I like it to feel a little more fresh than that. But anyway, I can just not listen to that station, I guess. So, good news of the week.
Oh, okay.
Good news story. And, you can't go wrong with babies and puppies, right?
Oh, yeah, true.
So this is a puppy story or somewhat of a puppy story. And this is a story about a couple in Arkansas. And why isn't it called Arkansas? If Kansas is Kansas, why isn't Arkansas Arkansas?
And doesn't Arkansas, it sounds like it would end in a W, but it doesn't.
Arkansas.
Saws.
Anyway. I'm just wondering out loud.
Mysteries of the universe that will never be solved.
I guess. It's like my favorite, one of my favorite sayings is I before E except after C. That's weird. Okay.
Oh boy.
When we do this in the afternoon instead of the morning, I feel like we're a little more punchy than usual.
It's completely different. Yes, it is.
The day has gotten to us somehow. Okay, so I love this story. It says a couple in Arkansas have emptied their savings and wedding fund to save a 10-month-old dog found stricken by the side of the road. Weeks have passed, and their love has inspired $39,000 in donations to help save the pooch. Man, was he missing all 4 limbs? What is 39,000?
Yeah,
I don't know. And they're replacing the money that this man spent. So self-sacrificingly, wow, that's a long word. Who he forked over the money for the emergency surgery. It was Halloween Day when Dylan McKay was leaving work that he saw on Facebook and noticed that a golden doodle had been seen on the side of the road, apparently injured near his home. She'd been struck by a vehicle in a hit and run. So he gathered some towels and blankets. It'd been raining, so when he got there, the dog was all wet, and the dog was still there with her back legs bloodied and broken, unable to move. Some strangers helped lift the dog into McKay's car, and when he made the fateful choice to speed towards the nearest emergency hospital. Despite her life-threatening injuries, she did not whine, she did not growl. She tried to crawl towards me and laid her head on my lap, he wrote. Joined later by his fiancée, Emily, McKay stood at Greenbrier Animal Hospital and was told that no microchip was present and that any and all expenses would fall on the young man just beginning to make his way in life. I decided in that moment I would do whatever was necessary to help the puppy. She deserved a chance at life, he wrote. So let's see. So that's when he set up the GoFundMe, and they named the dog Acklin. Broken legs, possible infection, and fleas were the diagnosis. The following day, the doctor said the leg would have to be amputated, and for the other one, which would have to be perfect, a 10-hour drive to Mississippi State University was required, and the cost had reached $7,000.
Wow.
So they pulled the money from their wedding fund and their overall life savings to fund the medical expenses. They said, that being said, we're joyous and excited at the possibility of saving this wonderful girl and giving her the best life she could imagine.
Wow.
So they didn't know they were going to have a dog to start their life together.
That's right.
And a three-legged, which I have a three-legged dog.
Oh, very relatable for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're very sweet. Our dog doesn't know he only has 3 legs because he was so young when he lost his leg. So when he was young, he was very fast. Now that he's older, he's like 10 years old now. Now he moves a lot slower, but yeah. 3-leggeds are cool. So what are we going to talk about today, Rick?
Let's talk about co-parents.
Yes. Today we're going to talk about major issues. When you think of major issues, Rick, what do you think of? Well, in the context of co-parenting, what would be deemed a major issue?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind are at least in Georgia, the 4 areas. Those 4 areas are the ones that I think of. Major issues, those that often require some defined process for breaking a tie or stopping a conflict on such decisions.
Yeah. So I think in our state, the statute is written with 4 major areas in mind that the court or the law deems important enough that the kids deserve to have them decided without a lot of conflict.
Yes.
Yet we often see the most conflict around these 4 major issues, don't we?
We do.
Yeah. A lot of people going back to court because they think they deserve to have final say in a certain area because they don't believe the other parent is really taking care of the child's medical needs or education needs or religious needs or extracurricular needs, that kind of thing. I often think of major as things that require a lot of money.
Interesting.
Because it's not really a major issue if you decide you want to give your child a Tylenol for a fever.
Oh, no.
Most parenting plans say, if the child is under your care, you can take care of their minor medical issues. It's when you seek out the help of a physician or an emergency or something where you're going to have to lay out some cash. Oh, now we're talking about major, right?
Right.
Same thing with education. A major issue is not what time of day does your child do his or her homework. That would be a day-to-day decision made by the parent and considered minor until it becomes a big issue. But what is a major issue? Well, private school where you have to spend a lot of money.
Right.
Or tutoring where you have to spend a lot of money, right? That's when parents get all worked up and think, well, this is major because now I'm being asked to spend a lot of money. Same thing with extracurriculars. There's an outlay of cash so I've often thought that what the courts see as major really has to do with expensive things.
Huh. Okay.
I don't want to think of it that way. I want to believe that the court is altruistic and really wants the child to be well-rounded in their physical health and their mental health and their spiritual health and their extracurriculars and their education, and that, it's all about well-roundedness. But when it comes right down to it, it seems that what the court really views as major is something that costs money.
Yeah. Okay.
So Laura wrote this email. I'm not sure where she is. I don't think she said where she lives. So I'm not sure what state this is in. But I'm going to read the email and then we'll kind of go through and see if we can pick apart what is major. So she starts the email with help, exclamation point. How might I handle situations where my ex-wife doesn't follow the parenting plan by not engaging me in what I consider, quote, unquote, major decisions? And then she gives these 3 bullet points. She tested the kids' DNA without asking or telling me and won't share the results with me when I asked. The second one, she told the kids about their donor siblings, showed them pictures, and said they would fly to Pennsylvania to meet them. And the third one, she told our daughter that I had moved out of the house 2 years before the divorce, which is not true. I've tried referencing the parenting plan, asking for more information, as well as your suggestion to say the kids are saying X, which I'm sure isn't the case, but want you to know just in case. But in each instance, she becomes defensive, blames me, or withholds the information. What other options do I have? I fear parental alienation. Then she goes on to give a little bit of context that the kids are 7 and 10. Each one of them carried a child. So one is biologically one mom's and the other one is biologically the other mom's. And apparently they have the same donor dad. And we have equal parenting time and equal decision rights. She claims that her ex is an alcoholic, but apparently she doesn't admit to that. And the other parent claims that this parent is ADHD. So there's just a lot of blaming going on about their character or their issues. Stability, all of that. So in reading this, Rick, we have to make some assumptions, I think. Mm-hmm. One of the assumptions is that, and this is something you and I talked about as we were processing this, I would think, but I'm not an attorney in this area, so I don't know, but I would think that before someone donated their sperm, there would be a legal document that says I'm giving up my parental rights, because the intention would be for that child to be somebody else's. These 2 moms were going to have, I guess, legal rights to the child. And I don't know if that's automatic or there has to be legal documents signed. I mean, I would think there'd have to be legal documents. She doesn't say whether there are legal documents in this case. Did she officially adopt the child, or was it just sort of a handshake and said, this is how we're going to do it? Because if that's the case and there weren't legal documents, I understand her point 1. Not point 1. I don't understand point 1. We'll get back to that. Point 2, where she told the kids about their donor siblings. So apparently the person who donated the sperm has other kids. Yeah. And her ex-wife is now introducing their 2 children to their siblings. Yeah. Which sounds like she's trying to make a little family over there. And that is causing her a lot of anxiety. So I can understand why she thinks that would be alienating. Yeah, potentially alienating. Right. Which is pretty major. All right. It's a major issue. If there are legal documents that he's given up his parental rights and she and the other parent have both legally adopted these 2 children, then to me, it's not a major issue. It's just a matter of being upset. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, You might be upsetting, but at the same time, the legal documents make you the adoptive parent. So you've just got to trust that I've got the parental rights. Doesn't mean you wouldn't worry that down the road she would try to alienate, but
but even if we were completely remove the donation process, these two parents divorced, and one of them is having a relationship with another person, then it doesn't matter biologically. Alienation, they could still alienate her.
I don't know that she's having a relationship with the donor. It's just they happen to know the donor, and the donor seems to be okay with the kids being introduced to his children. So it might just be their friends, but she's obviously threatened by that.
Yes.
Personally threatened by that. What I'm saying is if there aren't any legal documents, I would be threatened by that too, because he could then say, well, they're my kids. I'm going to claim them. And, you have no standing, or at least one of the children.
I see where you're going. Yeah. So the biological dad is now getting together with the biological mom and kicking her to the curb as nothing. And legally,
I don't know whether they're having a relationship as a couple, but it doesn't matter if dad has second thoughts about having done this, and maybe I want to be in these kids' life after all. And, and then I'm thinking, how do three parents try to manage?
Wow.
I mean, kids have a hard enough time going to two houses. Are we going to now have them going to three houses? It sounds very, very complicated. So my first question was, is there legal documents to protect her? If they're not, word of warning to people out there, this would be important.
Yes.
And necessary to have those documents in place.
Yeah. Legal ducks in a row. Yes.
And even to the point of saying this parent is not going, is it going to be an open adoption, or is it going to be a closed adoption? Those are important things. So is this ex-wife, is she breaking the adoption agreement? Is she doing something? Is she violating an agreement she thought they had verbally, or is she violating a court document that says the kids will not be interacting with the donor because of this agreement? So there's a lot of questions around that. But because I'd never really thought of this before, I don't think I've encountered this particular problem before, which is amazing in and of itself. I thought we've encountered every problem, right?
True. I have not.
But I don't know that I've encountered this particular one.
No.
And so I thought it was important to talk about, so I could figure it out for me. No.
Well,
not about me.
We will eventually hit it again somewhere, yes. I'm sure.
Right.
Yep.
So that's question number one, and word of caution number one. And, depending on her answer to that question, I would have two different statements. If there were no legal documents, I would want to get that in place right away. This would be a question for an attorney. If there's a divorce decree that gives you legal rights to a child, but you never had you would have to have had an adoptive agreement in order for the court then to give you a parenting plan, would you not?
Yeah, you would have to have parental rights. Yes.
You have to either legitimize or show adoption rights.
So there's something, can we assume that there's something inherently assumed that if you're a sperm donor or an egg donor, then that is no longer your property? You have no legal claims to it.
Right. Well, I'm just saying, if they have a current parenting plan in place signed off by a judge, that's a court order, it implies
yes,
that
there's parental rights. Yeah.
She had legal rights to the child and the donor did not.
Yeah, right.
Via a prior agreement. Okay.
Something. Yep.
Yeah. So
I think that's safe.
So if that's the case, Laura, I wouldn't worry about his standing in your kids' lives. Again, it might be upsetting. Maybe your intention was that the kids didn't need to know that, or not at this age, or there was going to be, I don't know what you and your ex-partner talked about with regard to when will the kids know where they came from, or will they ever know? Is it important for them to know? I don't, that's a kind of a personal decision of how and when to tell and what that's going to look like. So maybe it's just a matter of you feel betrayed, that you had a certain idea about how that was going to play out. And now she's taken it upon herself to do what she wanted to do without consulting you. So,
I am really struggling with any kind of motive. What is Laura's ex thinking or planning, or what is she trying to accomplish with what she's doing? I can't.
Well, I mean, how many times do we hear, Rick, a family where the two biological parents are together and then they separate?
Mm-hmm.
And they go marry somebody else and they just want to start their own little family, and let's forget you ever existed.
Well, that's true.
Even when you're the biological parent. So I don't know that these two, the ex-wife and the donor, are trying to have a romantic relationship, but maybe they're just friends and they like this little family constellation better. So she's psycho, she's ADHD, she's whenever she's being called. And that was in the context too, by the way. One's accusing the other one of being alcoholic, and the other one said, well, you're ADHD, which, that I don't know if that's on a level playing field.
No,
that's
not
the
really.
blame going back and forth. So I'm tired of you. I'm done with you. I don't like you. I would just like to push you out of the way, which I'm thinking what Laura is feeling, sort of pushed out of the way and isolated from at least one of her children's family, even though she has equal time with the child. So I understand the emotion, but if legally you're solid, I don't know that I would put too much credence to it.
Right.
You still are going to be with your child. Hey listeners, you've heard me talk about the daily devotional for frustrated co-parents that I'll be releasing January 1st. Some of you have responded with interest in a subscription, so thank you. Starting this week, you can officially subscribe online. Since the holidays are near, consider giving yourself the gift of daily faith encouragement, as well as a few tips and skills from my archives thrown in there. You might also know someone on your gift list who could benefit. If so, check out the links in the show notes. And happy holidays. So the big question is, how are you handling this with your kids? Is more important than what your ex-wife is doing. When they come home and go, hey, Mom, we met Mr. Smith, and apparently he's our dad, and he's got two kids, and we have siblings we didn't even know about.
Yes.
I hope that's not how you heard it. That would be a little shocking, but at the same time, they're kids. If your kids are excited and they've met this new piece of their family and that's exciting to them, I think you have to just be celebratory with them.
I agree. And I think I'm sitting here thinking, how would a 7-year-old process and think, okay, I have a brother and sister over there that
because they don't really understand biology.
Yeah, right.
Typically.
How would they
10-year-old might.
Maybe, yes.
Oh, yeah, that's tough. But let's just take this a step at a time. If they're excited and they seem excited and they want to know more, and this is part of my family, it would also be hard to say, well, yeah, I don't know. I don't know how that, again, this is new territory for me, and I'm shocked to be saying that. Because I thought I knew everything. And I'm realizing I don't.
There's a reason to live, Diane.
I'm saying that tongue in cheek. I hope everybody realizes that, because it sounded like I was saying that and I didn't want to say that. But I mean, this is a situation with nuances that I haven't really ever had to unpack before. So I guess that's why I wanted to do this one, because it's like, there's some interesting things here. Number one, how do you talk to very young children about the two mom thing?
Right.
And then, which I think is no different than your mom birthed you, but this mom was there with me and we adopted you, or she adopted you. And these are no different than if you had another situation where there was a biological parent and an adoptive parent, right?
Right.
But then to talk about the donor being, this was planned this way. And
yeah, because now you got that whole adoption kind of dynamic.
Our intention was to kind of keep him over here on the side,
right?
Or, and then the 1 7-year-old's going, "What did he donate?" And you're
right.
Going, well,
how does that
we
work?
really have to talk about that? Yeah. So, I just, so sometimes those questions can be really hard, right?
Oh, indeed.
So, yeah.
And there's layer upon layer of difficult questions wrapped up in this scenario.
Right. So, Laura, if they're excited, try to say, relish it with it, in them with it. Say, yeah, isn't that awesome that there's 3 people in your life that, care about you, and you've got these other siblings that now you're connected to. That's really awesome. They may say, well, why didn't you tell us that? Well, I guess I thought your mom and I were going to talk about that first, but we didn't do that, and it's fine. We can talk about it now. You don't blame, you don't
right,
get all emotional. You just deal with whatever it is and then take care of your own emotions later. That parenting hat thing, remember?
Right. Versus wounded spouse hat.
Right. The bigger concern is if they are not okay with it, if they're somewhat upset about it, if they're confused around it, if they're scared about it. What does this mean? Does this mean that you're not my parent anymore? I don't, that's where I would be a little bit more concerned if the kids weren't just taking it at base value and running with it, but we're starting to go, what's happening here? Who is this other person? Who are these other people? Are you going away? Because I can see how that could also be part of the mix for the kids, don't you?
Yep. Yeah.
And I think the only thing that Laura can do is, if they seem worried or scared, say, no, it's all good. I'm your legal parent, and it's my job to take care of you. And I intend to be around forever to do that as long as I'm alive. And you don't have to worry about anything. Nothing's going to be different on my end. So whatever the kids need, you give them.
Right.
And is your ex trying to alienate you? I don't know. I understand the suspicion that maybe she's trying to push me out of the way. But if you have legal standing, then that may end up being a legal issue for you. Right?
Yeah, it's like we've talked about, I think, in the alienation episode that we did. Just because the other parent may be trying to alienate you or even producing alienating behaviors doesn't mean your children are going to be or are being alienated from you, because the child's response is the thing that determines whether there's alienation.
Right. And if you don't handle this well, you could contribute to their alienation.
Right.
But if you handle it well, chances are that will feel genuine to your children. It will feel protective. It will feel supportive. It will feel affirming. And kids will gravitate toward you for that.
Definitely. Yes.
And whatever the other parent is saying about you to them won't ring true if you don't respond the way it has been predicted that you will respond.
Yes. And back to the mantra, judge me by what you know about me, not by what you hear about me.
Right. And her third point, I would definitely say that they told our daughter I'd moved out of the house 2 years before the divorce, and it's not true. Well, okay. People say all kinds of untrue things to our kids about us. And the only thing you can do is just say, I'm sorry you had to hear that. I hope you'll judge me by what you know about me, not by what you hear about me. Because, hearsay is hearsay.
Yeah.
People often change their memories without even realizing they're doing it because they're trying to, convince themselves of something they need to be convinced of. And so it might not even be lying as much as it's, we all do this. We all exaggerate the truth to fit our needs.
Yeah. So we'll be okay.
Kids do that really well.
Right. Right.
So adults are not beyond doing that.
Right.
So just explain to your child, I'm sorry I'd hear that. It's not really what happened, but you don't need to know what happened. This isn't about you. I don't want you in the middle of this.
Yeah.
And you just take them right out and say, I want you to be concerned about stuff that matters to you.
Yes.
School and friends and your activities and all of that is what I want you to be concerned with. Mm-hmm. Stuff between us, it's all in the past. It really doesn't make any difference now to who we are as a family now.
Yep.
And if you say that.
And do you want grilled cheese for lunch?
Right. So some of it is attitude and an attitude of confidence. And Laura, I'm not feeling that coming from your email. I'm feeling like you think you're in the one down position and she's taking the upper hand with you, and somehow you're going to lose and she's going to win, and the kids are going to just believe everything she says about you. That's what's kind of coming out of your email to me.
Yeah.
And I want to say to you, don't take that attitude with the kids.
Right.
Take a confident one. People see things differently. I'm sorry you had to hear that. I don't want you to be in the middle. Nothing's going to change. We're going to be okay no matter what happens. Oh, that's great that you got to meet some new people in your life that you can love. Or, oh, I'm sorry that was a surprise. And that you seem a little concerned about it. That makes sense too. Our family is complicated, like all families are. There's so many phrases that you can use with kids to assure them that their world is not going to fall apart.
Yes.
And so find out what those are for you, practice them, write them down. Sometimes we need to journal who we are and what we want to say to show our kids who we are.
Yeah.
And be truthful and honest about that, but at the same time, make sure your words are not in service of you, but in service of them.
We're back to, like you said, I could strip this down. It comes back to the things that I always think are important, and that is just focus on your relationship with your kids. That's really all you need to do. You've got the parenting time.
How are they being affected by this? And then run with that, especially for the youngest one.
Yes.
You might not know what's happening. Why is this happening? Who are these people? How did this begin? What do I do with this information? How am I supposed to feel about it? What we don't want your 7-year-old to think is, I'm not allowed to like it because my other mom is not okay with it.
Right. And then they don't have anywhere to go.
Yeah. That should never be a consideration for your child, is how do I take care of my mom's feelings? Gee, my one mom wants this to happen. The other mom doesn't want this to happen. I've got to become a chameleon. When I'm with one mom, I've got to act like I like it. When I'm with the other one, I have to act like I don't like it. And then her real feelings get lost in the drama of it.
So I guess one thing we would want you to pay attention to, Laura, is what impact is your frustration with the situation of the ex and the donor? What impact is your frustration having on the kids?
Right. Right. And her first bullet point, I have to admit, I don't understand it, that the other mom tested the kid's DNA without asking or telling her and won't share the results. What would be the purpose of testing the kid's DNA if you already know who the donor is and who birthed the child?
Yes. And why would it be important unless the X is trying to use the DNA to alienate Laura?
Yeah, somehow. If there's going to be a legal case and you're trying to legitimize the dad, then you would need a DNA test to do that. And if that's what's happening, I would be pretty upset about that. But that would be hard to do if there are legal documents in place,
right?
Which he gave up his parental rights so that you could adopt the child. This is where I really think you need to get an attorney involved.
Yes.
And like I said before, you didn't if you didn't have legal documents where he gave up his legal rights, how did you end up with a parenting plan that gave you legal rights?
Right.
It doesn't make sense to me. So he had to have signed something to where he was not claiming parental rights to begin with. So now is he going back to court with her? And is the motive on the ex's motive, is that just to simply get rid of the one mom?
Yeah.
But I would think she adopted mom's biological, the other Laura's. If she adopted Laura's biological child, then how does she think that's going to play out? It's very confusing.
No, I get the feeling that the ex is trying to create a world the way she wants it to be, and regardless of what legal standings there are, she just wants it this way.
So I think you need information from an attorney to calm your anxiety.
Yep.
I would hope if you have all the right documents in place, an attorney is like, no, this is not going to happen. Don't worry about it. And maybe then you can sleep better and not worry so much about it.
Yeah, get that legal confidence and then build that emotional confidence with your kids. And you are not powerless then in this situation.
Right. So to wrap this up, this is, we started it out with talking about major decisions.
Oh, yeah.
And she couched these 3 bullet points within that category of major decisions, saying that I need to handle a situation where my ex-wife doesn't follow the parenting plan by not engaging me in what I consider major decisions. That implies the parenting plan covers these bullet points, but I doubt that it does.
I doubt it. Yeah.
Does the parenting plan say that any DNA test you get for the children must be shared? Was it I doubt that that's in there. I've never seen it that in a parenting plan. Does it?
I have no doubt there's something in there she could interpret to mean that. But
like
that doesn't mean it's in there.
Or something. But that a DNA test is typically not for medical reasons unless you're trying to test for an anomaly. Genetics,
transplant or something. Yeah.
Something, right. I doubt her parenting plan is talking about you can't tell lies to your kids. People do it all the time.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
I doubt that it specifically says, it could say they neither one of them will introduce the kids to the donor without agreement. I don't know if I could see where it might say that, but I would think that would have been in the other legal documents.
I would think so.
Made up about what this donor's status would be. Is the donor going to be an active participant? Is the donor just going to be somebody, I've seen all kinds of adoptions.
Yes. Right? Yes.
Where the person giving up the child is kind of saying, well, I want to be involved from a distance. I don't want to be involved with the child, but I'd like to see photos, or I'd like to know what's happening in their life. That's kind of a semi-open adoption. And then there's other adoptions where the kids actually interact occasionally with the person who gave them up for adoption. And then there's completely closed adoptions where you just never know. So I don't know what the terms of their original adoption of each child was, but that's important.
Right.
And, do you go back to court and try to get a judge to determine something when she's violated maybe a clause that says you're not supposed to introduce the kids to the donor? Because once you do it, the cat's out of the bag. How's the judge going to put it back in the bag?
Right. Then it's back to the emotional impact on the kids.
Yeah.
And
what's the punishment for that?
Right. Yeah.
How do you punish that? I don't know that there's a punishment for that. It's done.
I guess let's turn it around for Laura here for a moment. Hypothetical. Let's say, your ex is breaking the law. Yes, she's disobeying the parenting plan. And yes, we go to court and prove it all. And yes, some kind of punishment is inflicted on your ex for doing all of that. What impact would that have on your children? And do you want that impact on your children? I could have justice, but it would hurt the children. Is that what you want?
Yeah. So she just didn't do what you thought she should do. That happens all the time in co-parenting relationships. The question is, do my kids need me to do something, step in and do something about it?
Yep.
And I don't know, again, depends on what the legal agreement was, whether or not a legal agreement was violated by doing it, and whether or not it's causing great distress for the children.
Right.
And so it seems to me the remedy would be really difficult to figure out. What is the remedy once someone violates that very important concept that you thought you had agreed on?
I guess for me, the bottom line, Laura, is if they're not threatening your parenting time, then you have time on your side, you have stability on your side, you have emotional energy, positive safety net for the children on your side. There's so much on your side until they start messing with your parenting time.
Yeah. I would say if we're going to talk in hold on, let go terms, hold on to this conflict. If your kids begin, acting like they never want to be with you anymore, and I want to be with this other person over here, and, and they start saying very alienating things, then you may need to do something legally, whatever that is, whatever parents do when they suspect alienation.
Right.
Right. But if you're not getting that from your kids, you're seeing them every other week or however your time is divvied up equally, and they seem fine. They even seem excited about the prospect. Yeah, you're mad about it, but I would let it go insofar as trying to change her motives.
Right.
And just focus on what the kids need from you, in light of the fact that they know this new information that you didn't intend for them to ever know or to know at this period of time or this point in their life.
So notice, Laura, we didn't give you a mantra to say to your ex. Basically, what we're suggesting is stop thinking about your ex, ignore your ex, and focus on your kids.
Yeah. All right, Laura, thank you so much for your question. It was unique, and that was kind of interesting to process.
Yes.
Because it was something new to us.
Indeed.
Yep. All right, guys, we will talk to you next week.
All right. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye. The information contained in this podcast is generic. It must not be misconstrued as constituting legal or psychological advice. Decisions relevant to any specific individual, family system, or case require the direct evaluation of skilled, child-centered professionals.